Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered how to decode the silent language of the heart? Sometimes the signs that someone misses you are all around, but only if you know how to look for them. Today I'm going to reveal 5 unmistakable signs that he misses you deeply, signs that are written not just in his words, but in his actions and his energy. When a man misses you, his emotions often manifest in ways that are difficult to hide even for him. These emotions can be triggered by seemingly insignificant things that hold deep meaning in the context of your relationship. For instance, he might hear a particular song on the radio, and suddenly his mind is flooded with memories of a time when that song played in the background of a special moment you shared. It might have been a lazy Sunday morning, a road trip, or an evening spent together when the song became the unspoken soundtrack to your connection. Now, every time he hears it, he's reminded of you, and those memories tug at his heartstrings, no matter how hard he tries to push them away. The triggers don't always have to be auditory. Sometimes they are visual or even olfactory. He might walk past the cafe where you used to sit and chat for hours, and he'll feel a pang of longing as he remembers the way your laughter used to fill the air. He might smell a perfume similar to the one you wore, and it's as if he's transported back to a moment when you were standing right beside him, your presence so tangible and real. These moments of recall are not something he plans or expects. They catch him off guard. They reveal that no matter how much time has passed or how he tries to distract himself, there's a part of him that still holds on to you and what you shared. This longing often goes beyond mere sentimentality. It touches the core of his emotional being. He might find himself staring at old photos, rereading your text conversations, or even going through items that remind him of you. A gift you gave him, a card you wrote, or a memento from a trip you took together becomes more than just an object. It becomes a portal to a time when you were both connected. These objects carry emotional weight, serving as tangible proof of the bond you once shared. Even if he doesn't openly admit it, the way he holds onto these things reveals the depth of his feelings. It's not just personal items or specific places that bring these memories to life. The most unexpected triggers can cause him to pause and think about you. A phrase someone says might echo something you used to tell him, or a random encounter with someone who looks like you might momentarily make him believe it's you. These fleeting moments may seem inconsequential to others, but to him, they're significant because they underscore just how much you occupy his thoughts. As he experiences these emotional triggers, there's often a conflict within him. Part of him may try to suppress these feelings, especially if he's someone who prides himself on being emotionally independent or guarded. He might convince himself that he's moved on or that these memories don't affect him as much as they do. Yet the reality is that emotions have a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply they're buried. His reactions to these triggers might be subtle, a momentary pause, a deep breath, or a faraway look, but they speak volumes about what's going on inside. This process can be frustrating for him because it's not something he can control. Unlike decisions that are made rationally, emotions operate on a different level. They arise spontaneously, often catching him by surprise, and they remind him of how deeply connected he was to you. Even if he's busy with work, friends, or other commitments, these triggers have a way of sneaking into his day, pulling his focus back to you. It's not that he chooses to dwell on these memories, it's that they demand his attention, refusing to be ignored. You might wonder if he shares these experiences with anyone, and the answer is often no. For many men, acknowledging how much they miss someone is a vulnerable act, one that doesn't come easily. He may keep these feelings to himself, processing them internally rather than confiding in others. Even if he appears composed on the surface, the emotional triggers are a constant undercurrent, shaping his thoughts and feelings in ways that aren't always visible to those around him. In some cases, these triggers can lead him to take specific actions. He might reach out to you in subtle ways, like sending a message that seems casual but carries an undertone of longing. Alternatively, he might withdraw, unsure of how to handle the emotions that have resurfaced. Either way, the triggers serve as a reminder that you're still a significant part of his emotional world, whether he likes to admit it or not. As he navigates these emotions, he may also begin to reflect on the relationship in ways he didn't before. The moments that trigger his feelings often prompt him to think about what made the relationship special, what he misses most about you, and what If anything, he would do differently if given the chance. These reflections can be bittersweet as they bring both the joy of remembering and the pain of knowing that things have changed. However, they are also a testament to the depth of his feelings and the impact you've had on his life. When a man misses you deeply, his subconscious mind often takes over, driving him to maintain a connection with you in ways that are subtle but unmistakable. These efforts might not always be grand gestures. In fact, they're often small and seemingly insignificant actions that speak volumes about how much space you still occupy in his heart and mind. One of the most common ways he tries to stay connected is through social media. He might not outright message you or comment on your posts, but you'll notice his silent presence. Perhaps he views every story you post, likes an old photo of yours, or reacts to your latest update. These actions, though simple, are deliberate attempts to stay close to you without overstepping boundaries or making his feelings too obvious. This behavior often extends beyond the digital world. He may find ways to keep tabs on you through friends, subtly inquiring about how you're doing or what's new in your life. The questions might come across as casual or harmless, but their underlying purpose is clear. He wants to know how you're holding up and whether you moved on. These inquiries aren't necessarily driven by jealousy or possessiveness, but by an inherent need to feel connected to you, even if it's from a distance. Sometimes his efforts are more direct, though still understated. He might send you a message out of the blue, asking about something trivial or pretending to need advice on a topic he knows you're knowledgeable about. On the surface, it might seem like an innocent interaction, but in reality, it's his way of reaching out and keeping the lines of communication open. He's testing the waters, gauging your reaction to see if you're receptive to engaging with him. Even when he doesn't initiate contact, his presence in your world is intentional. He might frequent places where he knows you're likely to be or casually mention shared experiences and conversations with others, hoping the message will somehow reach you. It's not about manipulation or playing games. It's about his desire to bridge the gap and hold on to the connection that still matters deeply to him. Another way he unconsciously stays connected is by surrounding himself with reminders of you. Maybe he keeps an item you gave him in plain sight or listens to a playlist you both created together. These subtle actions might seem passive, but they're active choices that allow him to keep you close in his thoughts. He may even find himself drawn to habits or routines that were once part of your time together. For instance, he might revisit a favorite restaurant, watch a show you introduced him to, or read a book you recommended. These activities are not just about reliving memories, they're his way of maintaining a sense of continuity with you, even when you're no longer physically present in his life. The unconscious efforts to stay connected also manifest in his reactions to hearing your name or encountering something that reminds him of you. Perhaps a friend mentions you in passing, or he stumbles across an old photo of the two of you. His immediate reaction, whether it's a smile, a moment of quiet reflection, or even an attempt to change the subject, reveals the emotional impact you still have on him. These moments catch him off guard, reminding him of how deeply he feels your absence. Sometimes these efforts to stay connected are driven by a need for reassurance. He wants to know that you haven't forgotten about him, just as he hasn't forgotten about you. This need might lead him to engage in behaviors that seem subtle but are highly intentional. For instance, he might post something on social media that he knows will catch your attention, or share a song or quote that holds special meaning for the two of you. These are not random choices, they're deliberate attempts to spark a reaction from you, to remind you of the bond you once shared. In other cases, his unconscious efforts are about seeking closure, even if he doesn't realize it. He might revisit moments in his mind, replaying conversations and wondering if there was something he could have done differently. These thoughts often lead to a strong desire to reconnect, not necessarily to rekindle the relationship, but to find peace with the lingering emotions. This is why he might reach out with a seemingly innocent message or attempt to subtly re-enter your life. Even his silence can be a form of staying connected. If he pulls back and doesn't initiate contact, it doesn't necessarily mean he's moved on. On the contrary, his withdrawal might be a sign of internal struggle, a way of coping with the overwhelming emotions that come with missing you. In his mind, staying silent might feel like the only way to protect himself from further pain. Yet, even in his silence, he's likely thinking about you, wondering what you're doing and whether you're missing him too. His unconscious efforts to maintain a connection can also reveal themselves through his interactions with others. He might compare new people he meets to you, measuring them against the qualities he cherished most about you. These comparisons are not necessarily conscious, but they highlight the lasting impact you've had on his life. In his mind, you've set a standard that's difficult, if not impossible, to replicate. These subtle, often unconscious behaviors belong to the depth of his feelings. They show that even when he's not physically present or openly expressing his emotions, you're still an integral part of his inner world. Every action, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is a reflection of the connection he's trying to preserve. When a man misses you deeply, his emotional state often manifests in noticeable changes in his behavior, even if he doesn't explicitly express how he feels. These behavioral shifts are not always obvious at first glance, but with careful observation, they reveal the depth of his longing. One of the most telling signs is his sudden and consistent effort to maintain a presence in your life. This can show up in unexpected ways. He might start calling or texting more frequently, even if it's just to share something trivial or ask how you're doing. On the surface, these interactions might seem casual, but they are often driven by his need to feel connected to you. These changes can be subtle or dramatic, depending on his personality and how he processes emotions. For instance, a man who was once reserved or detached may suddenly become more communicative, opening up about things he never shared before. He might use this as an opportunity to remind you of the bond you share or to subtly hint at how much he values you. Conversely, a man who is naturally expressive might amplify his efforts, going out of his way to be present in your life and ensuring that you notice his attempts to reconnect. Another noticeable change in his behavior is the way he prioritizes you. He might shift his schedule or make sacrifices to spend more time with you, even if it's just through virtual interactions. If he knows you have a specific event or challenge coming up, he might offer his support in ways that feel unusually attentive or thoughtful. These actions aren't just about being kind, they're his way of showing that you still matter to him, even if circumstances have changed. You might also observe a change in how he interacts with your mutual friends or circles. He could start asking them about you, seeking updates on your life without directly reaching out to you. His curiosity isn't just about knowing what you're doing, it's a way for him to stay connected to your world, even if he feels hesitant to step into it fully. This kind of behavior is especially common when he's unsure how you feel about him or if he's worried about being too forward. His behavior may also reflect a newfound interest in things that matter to you. He might start engaging with hobbies, interests, or causes you're passionate about, even if they weren't part of his life before. For example, if you love hiking, he might suddenly take an interest in the outdoors and mention a recent trail he explored. If you're involved in a specific type of art or music, he might reference it in conversations, showing that he's paying attention to what makes you happy. These actions are not random. They're deliberate attempts to align himself with the things that bring you joy as a way of reinforcing the connection he misses. His tone and mannerisms might also shift noticeably when he's around you or even when your name is mentioned. There could be a softness in his voice, a warmth in his eyes, or a hesitation in his words that wasn't there before. These subtle cues often speak louder than anything he could say outright, revealing the depth of his feelings and how much he values your presence. He might also exhibit nervous energy or a slight awkwardness, especially if he's not used to being vulnerable. These behaviors are signs that he's grappling with emotions he can't fully articulate, but which are nonetheless shaping his actions. At times, his longing might drive him to go above and beyond in ways that feel out of character. For instance, he might surprise you with a thoughtful gesture or offer to help you with something he knows you're struggling with. These efforts are his way of proving that he's still there for you, even if you're not officially together. It's not just about being helpful, it's about demonstrating his commitment to staying connected, even when circumstances aren't ideal. You may also notice that he becomes more reflective and introspective, particularly in conversations with you. He might bring up memories of your time together, highlighting the moments that meant the most to him. By doing so, he's not just reminiscing, he's reminding you of the bond you shared and subtly expressing his hope that it can be rekindled. These reflections are often accompanied by an underlying tone of regret or longing as he tries to navigate the emotions that come with missing someone deeply. In some cases, his changed behavior might extend to his social interactions more broadly. He could become quieter or more withdrawn, especially if he's struggling to cope with the absence of your presence in his life. Alternatively, he might go to the opposite extreme, throwing himself into social activities or work in an attempt to distract himself. Both of these responses are rooted in the same emotional reality. He's grappling with the impact of missing you and trying to wait to manage those feelings. He may also begin to express gratitude for the things you've done for him in the past, even if he didn't acknowledge them at the time. This newfound appreciation often stems from the clarity that comes with missing someone. When you're not around, he has the space to reflect on the positive impact you've had on his life. And this realization can lead to a shift in how he treats you. His words and actions may carry a newfound sincerity and depth as he tries to convey just how much you mean to him. Ultimately, the changes in his behavior are a reflection of the emotional void he feels in your absence. Whether through subtle gestures or more overt actions, he's finding ways to bridge the gap and reconnect with you. His efforts might not always be direct or obvious, but they're rooted in a deep sense of longing that he can't ignore. Every action, no matter how small, is a testament to how much he misses you and the lengths he's willing to go to keep you in his life. When a man deeply misses you, one of the most telling signs is his sudden interest in your life and well-being. This often manifests as a heightened curiosity about your day-to-day experiences, emotions, and activities. Even if you've grown apart or aren't in frequent contact, he finds ways to check in on you, often through indirect channels. He might reach out under the guise of casual conversation, but his questions and comments reveal a deeper concern about how you're doing and what's happening in your world. These moments are not mere coincidences. They stem from an emotional need to feel close to you, even if physical proximity is no longer possible. He might start asking seemingly innocuous questions about your life, like how work is going or how you're feeling. While these questions may appear routine, there's often a deeper subtext. Each query is an attempt to gauge how you're truly doing and whether you're happy or fulfilled. He's not just looking for surface-level answers. He wants insight into your emotions, your struggles, and your triumphs. These conversations often become more meaningful as he carefully listens to your responses, offering support or encouragement that feels unusually thoughtful. Sometimes his interest becomes evident through his interactions with mutual friends or family members. He may ask them about you, seeking updates on your well-being or the latest events in your life. This behavior reflects a subtle yet profound desire to remain connected to you, even when he might not feel comfortable reaching out directly. He might frame his inquiries as casual or out of general concern, but those who know him well can sense that his questions carry an emotional weight. This indirect approach often highlights his vulnerability and his internal struggle to reconcile his longing for you with the distance that may exist between you. Social media is another avenue where his interest might become apparent. He could start liking or commenting on your posts more frequently, sometimes choosing moments that are particularly personal or significant to you. For instance, if you share an achievement, a milestone, or even a reflective thought, his engagement is often immediate and heartfelt. He might even reference those posts in conversations, demonstrating that he's not just scrolling through your life, but actively paying attention. This level of attentiveness suggests that he's looking for ways to stay connected and relevant in your life, even if only through virtual means. He may also become more engaged with the people and things that matter most to you. If he knows you have a close friend, sibling, or parent with whom you share a strong bond, he might make an effort to connect with them or inquire about their well-being. This isn't just about fostering good relationships. It's his way of feeling closer to you by associating himself with the people you hold dear. Similarly, he might show a newfound interest in your passions, hobbies, or causes, aligning himself with the things that bring you joy or fulfillment. His efforts may come across as subtle or understated, but they're deeply intentional and speak volumes about his emotional investment. Sometimes his interest in your life takes on a protective quality. He might offer unsolicited advice or express concern about decisions or situations you've shared with him. While this could feel intrusive at times, It's often driven by a genuine desire to see you thrive and avoid pain or hardship. His protectiveness is a reflection of how much he cares about your well-being, even if he struggles to express his feelings outright. He may also go out of his way to offer solutions or help, demonstrating his commitment to supporting you in tangible ways. This heightened curiosity can also extend to your emotional state. You may become more attuned to subtle changes in your tone, demeanor, or expressions, using these cues to gauge how you're feeling. If he senses that you're upset, stressed, or overwhelmed, he might reach out to offer comfort or simply to remind you that you're not alone. His attentiveness in these moments is often a clear indication of how deeply he values you and wants to be a source of stability in your life. At times, his interest in your life might border on nostalgia. He might bring up shared memories or moments from your past, not just to reminisce, but to relive those connections that made your relationship meaningful. These references are often paired with an underlying hope that those moments can serve as a foundation for rebuilding or strengthening your bond. Even if he doesn't say it explicitly, his actions convey a longing to recapture the closeness you once shared. You may also notice that he becomes more invested in celebrating your successes and milestones, no matter how small. Whether it's a work promotion, a creative project, or a personal achievement, he makes a point to acknowledge and celebrate your efforts. His support in these moments goes beyond casual encouragement. It's a deliberate effort to show that he's paying attention and rooting for you. This level of engagement often stems from his desire to remain a meaningful part of your journey, even if the nature of your relationship has changed. On some occasions, his interest in your life might come across as subtle probing. He may ask open-ended questions designed to draw you out or encourage you to share more than you initially intended. This isn't about prying, but about creating opportunities for deeper connection. He wants to understand the layers of your experiences and emotions, hoping that this understanding will bring him closer to you. In moments of vulnerability, he might even admit that he thinks about you often or that he's curious about what you're up to. These admissions, though rare, are profound indicators of how deeply he misses you and values your presence. Whether through direct communication, subtle gestures, or indirect inquiries, his heightened interest in your life is a clear reflection of his longing for the connection he feels with you. When a man deeply misses you, one of the most compelling signs is his persistent and deliberate efforts to maintain communication. This behavior often manifests in a variety of ways, reflecting his desire to bridge the gap between you, whether physical or emotional. Even if the conversations seem casual on the surface, they are often driven by a deeper emotional need to feel your presence and keep the connection alive. His attempts to communicate aren't merely habitual, they are purposeful and laden with unspoken emotions. You may notice that he reaches out more frequently, sometimes under the guise of needing your opinion, sharing a random thought, or checking about something trivial. These messages, while seemingly minor, are his way of opening the door to a conversation. The content might vary, but the underlying intention is consistent. He wants to hear from you, interact with you, and feel a sense of closeness, even if only through words or shared moments of exchange. Sometimes his efforts to communicate become more evident during significant times of the day or in response to shared memories. For example, he might text you in the evening when he's more likely to reflect on the past or feel the weight of loneliness. Alternatively, he might reach out around anniversaries or special dates that held meaning in your relationship. These moments aren't coincidental, they're carefully chosen as they hold emotional significance for him. By reaching out, he's not just starting the conversation, but also reliving the connection you once had. The tone and depth of his messages often reveal more than the words themselves. He might ask open-ended questions that invite a longer response, signaling his desire to keep the dialogue flowing. Rather than ending the conversation abruptly, he finds ways to prolong it, whether by introducing a new topic, asking follow-up questions, or expressing genuine curiosity about your thoughts and feelings. His messages may include small but thoughtful details, showing that he's not just communicating for the sake of it. He genuinely values your input and enjoys engaging with you. In some cases, his attempts to maintain communication might involve sharing personal updates or achievements. He wants you to know what's going on in his life, not just to keep you informed, but also to subtly invite your attention and approval. By sharing these moments, he's opening a window into his world, hoping that you'll reciprocate and share your life with him in return. This exchange becomes a way for him to feel emotionally connected to you, even if the distance between you remains. Social media often becomes a secondary channel for maintaining communication, especially if direct contact feels too vulnerable or complicated. He might start liking your posts, commenting on your stories, or sending direct messages in response to something you've shared. These actions, while seemingly small, are intentional. They're his way of reminding you that he's present, paying attention, and interested in what you're doing. Even a simple reaction to a story or a quick emoji can carry a significant emotional weight, signaling his longing to stay part of your life in any capacity he can manage. His communication might also take on a more reflective tone, especially if he feels comfortable enough to express his emotions. He may bring up old memories or talk about experiences you shared, weaving nostalgia into your conversations. This isn't just about reminiscing. It's a way for him to reconnect with the emotions tied to those moments. By revisiting these shared experiences, he's not only reminding you of the bond you once had, but also subtly expressing his hope that such a connection can be rekindled. At times, his attempts to communicate may seem indirect or even hesitant. He might reach out through mutual friends, asking them about you or passing along a message. This approach often stems from a mix of vulnerability and uncertainty. He wants to connect, but may be unsure of how you'll respond. These indirect efforts reveal his internal conflict, the strong desire to maintain communication balance against the fear of rejection or misinterpretation. Even when physical distance separates you, he finds ways to stay in touch. Long-distance communication often becomes a lifeline, with phone calls, video chats, or lengthy text exchanges filling the gap. He might go out of his way to adjust his schedule or accommodate time zone differences, demonstrating his commitment to keeping the lines of communication open. These efforts underscore the depth of his feelings and the importance of staying connected with you. Sometimes his communication takes on a more protective or supportive tone. He might check in on you during challenging times or offer help when he knows you're facing difficulties. His concern isn't superficial. It's rooted in his care for your well-being and his desire to be a source of stability in your life. Whether he's offering practical advice, emotional encouragement, or simply a listening ear, his actions convey his ongoing commitment to your happiness and peace of mind. His efforts to communicate might also include subtle but significant gestures, such as sending thoughtful messages at meaningful times or surprising you with small acts of kindness. These gestures, while not always grand, are deeply intentional and reflect his understanding of what matters to you. He may send a text just to say he's thinking of you or share something that reminded him of you, signaling his emotional investment and his hope that you still value the connection as much as he does. Ultimately, his persistent attempts to maintain communication speak volumes about his feelings. Even when words fail him or circumstances make it difficult to express himself fully, his actions consistently demonstrate his longing for closeness and his unwillingness to let the bond between you fade. Every effort, no matter how small, is a testament to the depth of his emotions and his desire to keep you as a meaningful part of his life.